highly efficient and deliver exceptional experiences. Incumbents must respond effectively and embrace the new normal. But how?
Hello, everybody. As Nick said, I am Tom Crane, and I work for the IBM Corporation, and I have responsibility globally for Gen ADM. I'm excited to be here for a few reasons. Number one is what you're going to see here is a point of view. Right? This isn't something you can go take and just plug in. It's our point of view. It's developed over the last, let's say, year and a half. We recognized as really, I'll even say a historic application service provider. Things were changing at a rapid pace, and IBM had to rethink how we did application development and maintenance. So we've called it Gen ADM. You'll hear me refer to that. I have a great deal of passion for this, and I hope you do as well, and I hope after we have an hour of conversation with this, you'll understand why I have the passion, and I hope you also take a few points away from it. So as I think about Gen ADM and how it applies to IT leaders, and as I look through people who are attending this conference, I try to tailor this conversation to IT leadership. Most of you in the room, if not all of you, are the IT leadership. I thought of really two ideas I want to put in front of you guys for you to kind of think through with your own shop, because I think hopefully at the end of this discussion you'll be able to think how it affects you, because again this is a point of view, and you got to take it and overlay to what you do every day and your role and what your IT organization does every day. It is. Thank you for the clarity. Yes. So it is application development maintenance. So I think and again, a couple of years ago, I'm not sure we would all come to Las Vegas to talk about application development and maintenance. But today, I think it is relevant that IT leadership does have this conversation, and I think it's for two reasons. The first reason is, as we go around, I hear all the C-suite talk about transformation, talk about IT transformation, and how you as leaders are either on your journey through that, either you've started it, you're through it at some level, and maybe a few of you are fortunate enough to somewhat feel that you're kind of at the end of that first phase of your IT journey. To me, as we start talking about your IT transformation and the new target operating models that you have to run in order to be and serve your clients today differently than you did a year ago, this next-gen topic, to me, is foundational to your target operating model. It really describes how you're going to do work in the future, right? It's the how. The second piece, the idea that I want to kind of float with you guys as you think through this and we go through this conversation is there's lots coming at us, right? I consider myself an IT professional. I've been in this for 35 years. I remember the introduction of, PCs, cell phones, things of that nature. I've been at this for 35 years, and I do realize, and I have realized that really in the last year I've seen more change than I've seen in I won't say all of my 35 years, but in quite a long time. And it has actually caused me to refocus on how I think about myself. It's caused me to really focus on my learnings. So as you think about this and you think about the next gen, we talk about this point of view, the second idea I'd like to float with you guys is this, to me, is a great way to describe the story around digital transformation. Describe it to your businesses, describe it to your staff, and again, maybe even describe it to yourself. It's a way in which you as IT leaders can absorb everything that's coming at you at the speed of light. Not just what's happening today, but I believe also it gives you a foundation to deal with the digital wave as the future starts to unwind. I think of it kind of this way. You're either going to be disrupted or you're going to disrupt. I look at this model as a way for you as IT leaders, and actually for IBM to help provide this as well. I'm going to kind of stay away from little commercials, but I want you to kind of know the foundation of where it came from. To turn your organization from being disrupted to being a disruptor. So that's kind of the foundation over there. Last thing I'm going to ask of you, if you could, my email should be somewhere in the brochures that you have. I really would appreciate your point of view on this point of view. What it means to you as an IT leader, how you can use it, what was valued, what was not. We're in a constant age of feedback loops here, and I really would appreciate it if you can take just a few minutes, sometime next week, this week, whenever you have it, just look up my email and send me your thoughts on this. I thought this was a great opportunity for me to learn from you as to how this is resonating with IT leaderships. I get to talk with a lot of you one-on-one, but as a group, I think that feedback would be very healthy for me. Okay, so why don't we get started here? Just the agenda. I'm going to really 3 different places. I'm going to talk a little bit about the market trends. You're IT leaders, you know what the trends are. I'm not going to go heavy on that. I want to talk about what our point of view is on this stuff. Then I want to also talk about some of the key considerations that we developed within that point of view. I have a client story that's weaved into this, but I'll also weave maybe a few client stories in here. I think client stories are important. They really do bring this to life, so I'll try to weave some of that in as we go. First piece I want to talk about is the market trends. This slide's broken down into 2 components. You have the top part are the business expectations, and the bottom is really the kind of the digital components. What we see are the technology trends. I'm not going to drain the slide. By the way, if you're interested in these slides, I'm happy to share them with you. Again, in the email, let me know you're interested in them. I think they've got some data in there that you might be able to leverage yourself. If you're interested in me kind of running these through with you, again, from a commercial, won't do too many commercials, happy to go do this. If you don't specifically ask me to come visit you, I'm not, and I promise I won't send 100 of my best sellers to you just because you sent me an email. But again, feel free to communicate with me on this as we go. So to me, I kind of see there's a few trends happening on the business expectations. And this is a big one. Today, when we talk technology, it's coming from the CEOs, not just the CIOs. It's really an interesting shift and what CIOs are talking about in their organizations. Banks, sometimes they're not even talking themselves as a bank. They refer to themselves as a technology company. Large financial institutions are saying, I'm a technology company. So what this means and what we see from a business expectations perspective is you as CIOs, you as IT leaders, you are transforming from being a group that is providing services for your core business to being the core business. And I think that transformation is pretty important as we talk about, again, some of the next gens and the foundations associated with that. The other piece that I want to talk a little bit about here is the financial aspect of transformation. Again, this is just our learnings from IBM. A lot of it comes from my conversations. It's really interesting that you guys have become the pinnacle of what is the future of most of your organization or a good bit of your organization, but yet you have to be self-funded through your digital transformation. So we focused on Next Gen here as a discussion point on a way to look at how do you self-fund your transformation to the digital world. And I think, again, it's a key component. We see those as some of the business expectations. On the technology trends, I'm going to just pick on a few here. One, cloud. All right, I guess I'll do it. It's a small group. Show of hands. How many are using a cloud? I'm not going to ask how many you aren't because it's generally a small number of 0. What I want to say on here, the cloud's obviously here to stay. What I want to say about the cloud is that it supports a pace of change that we haven't seen before. But from a cloud perspective, what we're seeing there is you're going to have more than one cloud provider provide your suite of services. You're going to probably move also to do it yourself and have your own cloud technology in-house. We're seeing that. And how you manage the multiple cloud and kind of the hybrid cloud of being able to have certain parts of an application sitting in-house, protected in your cloud environment, yet some of the digital components out in some. It's a very complicated world in which you're going to be living in. And that requires a lot of care and feed as you look at it from an ADM perspective, like application development maintenance perspective. The other kind of trend that I want to kind of just lay out, because I think it has have ramifications today, and I think it has significant ramifications in the future, is these devices that are available. I'm just going to call them devices, IoT devices. So if you're if you're doing logistics, all the IoT devices that are supported there. If you're doing any of your industry, all of the devices that you have to be out there, whether they're in a truck or in your vehicles, whether they're on your planes, whether if you're utility and you have them lined across all the sensors that deliver energy to your services. The life cycle of those devices are yours. I mean, their IT life cycle belongs to you in that piece. And I think that's a technology trend that, again, when we built Next Gen ADM, you think about how we built it, we took into consideration that that's just going to explode for everybody in this room. It's just going to explode, we believe. The last one I'll talk about on a kind of the trends, the digital trends, is automation. I think automation today, we've done a lot of things. I suspect many of you have automation. Many of you have call center automation. Many of you have bots embedded into your businesses. But I like to look at it this way. If you just kind of compare what we have today and how we manage it to where we're going to tomorrow, and what a lot of people are referring to is the digital employee. If you haven't seen that, I really ask you to suggest you take a look at it, because I think it's going to be revolutionary. Where you're going from, I'll just compare, a GPS that's sitting in your truck, and it's giving you route, information, and you no longer have a schedule. You're using this technology as an asset for the driver to a driverless vehicle, and what it means to be in a driverless vehicle, and the ecosystem that supports a digital employee, just from a concept perspective. That no longer is an HR function, it's an IT function. So the life cycle of this digital employee, if I can kind of characterize it, belongs to you. It belongs to the Next Gen ADM model. And when that digital employee gets sick, the ramifications inside the business is significant. It's no longer I can get a truck driver to step in and go do that. You're going to cripple the business. So the ecosystem around this digital employee is foundational to that kind of concepts to what we've done on the application development management prospect. Okay, so enough on the trend side there. Everybody, you guys know there's a lot of other places in there around AI and machine learning, Devops, which we'll talk about. These are things I know that you guys have generally have a lot of experience with. I mean, there's lots of questions with it, but you do have a lot of experience with it as well. All right, so let's go to the next one. Just a kind of a minute on this stuff. We talk about here the new normal. You guys are living in the new normal. It's there. It's not something that's just going to come. It's there today. It's, again, about being a disruptor or being disrupted, the new normal. And there's three elements, there's three pillars that we focused on when we started building our point of view around the new normal. It was speed. And when we talk about speed, you can look at companies like Facebook, right, and Amazon that are on here, that they have the ability to deploy new technology every 12 seconds. I mean, that's data that's out there. It's just, think about that versus what, we kind of grew up with. Every 18 months you put out a big release and you prayed like hell that it didn't break. And they're doing these tough things around efficiency. And again, Uber is a great example of that. Now, I know these are a lot of born on cloud companies which have some distinct advantages, but something like Uber, it's got an app with a bunch of APIs that are out there in the market today. It's just incredible what they're able to do with that disruption and how they're doing it. To places like the third element over here is resilience, and being resilient. Zero downtime. We've always talked about this, but this is becoming, obviously it's a reality for these organizations where you got organizations like Spotify and Netflix, things like Chaos Monkey, where they actually break the system while it's in operation on some of their heavier days to see how everybody reacts to it on purpose. They have things in there that do it. So these are elements that are in there today. They're in the IT ecosystem today, and we consider them as part of our foundation as we describe the new normal. All right, so I think what's important about this slide is no matter what we talk about in in our IT ecosystem and IT transformation and having years of lived through a lot of this. The good news is it still boils down to really three factors that drive our change. They may be different within it, but the foundation of our ability to serve our businesses and our clients really comes down to three things. It's the people, it's the process, and it's the technology. The reason why I wanted to talk about the underpinnings of those is just to kind of bring some normality to everything we're talking about. In the end, just like it was 10 years ago, it was the people that made a difference. It was the processes we put in place, and it was the technology that we leveraged. It's no different than today. It's just a different group of people. It's certainly a different set of processes, and technology is just exploding. All right, so let's get to the IBM point of view. And I apologize here while you guys read that. I've been doing a little international travel. I got a little cough going here. I don't want to blow your ears out with a cough. So here's the meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about. So when IBM thinks about the next Gen ADM and our point of view of serving clients, we break them down into these performance zones. Right? All of you have, most organizations have all three performance zones. This isn't to say that you as an organization fit into one. You don't. They go across. If you're a born-on-cloud organization, the Ubers of the world, yeah, you're going to be way over on the unleash, and you may not have to worry about legacy debt, and you may not have to worry about optimizing your core because, quite frankly, you don't have any from that perspective. But what's important here is you and your organization, you have significant assets today that other born-on-cloud or new organizations don't have. You have data that they don't have. You've been capturing it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right? You have very unique applications that you provide that nobody does in your space. These are the things that are critical for you to be able to monetize in order to go, again, from being disrupted to leading the disruption in your space and in your organization. So there's three performance zones we have. We call it optimize the core. So optimize the core, the characteristics of that, and I got a slide for each one of these, so I won't go into great detail until I get to the slides. But when you talk about optimizing the core, I want you to think of a system that you have today that you hardly ever update. Right? It is important for your business. It's not going to go away. It's probably one of them that you don't, since you're not doing updates today, you're not going to necessarily have a big reinvestment program in. But you can't ignore them, right? And you probably don't want to spend a ton of money building out strong IT people and processes and technologies around these things as you would an unleashed, as you would a total digital package. The second one is the unlock the legacy. And here's where I kind of spoke to the important characteristics of this is you have assets today inside your own organization that nobody else has. They differentiate you as an organization and provide significant competitive advantage. These are applications that generally homegrown. They're very complex, monolithic. They're loved by their business, right? They don't want to change them. These are applications that you're getting a lot of requests to do things around the edges. I call them, put a digital layer around them. So when we talk about unlocking legacy, what we mean is you take a set of back office or back office type operations, since say back office. You take a set of applications and you put a wrapper around them, and then you build digital assets around them. Just a good example to kind of do it. This concept might be a little hard to kind of understand. Let's say you have a billing engine that you believe differentiates you in the market, right? Whatever business you're in, it's a very significant billing engine, highly complex. Changing it, requires some very skilled individuals. It's high risk to change. But you have new loyalty programs in place. You have new billing functions you want to add to it. You might be dealing with a merger or divestiture. You have to put things around this. So what we see organizations do there is they create a wrapper around the core asset, the ones they don't want to change, the ones that are put high risk, and then they build digital assets around it. Right? And this is what we call about unlocking legacy. The third, unleashing digital, is what we all hear about today, is the ability to actually develop in a brand new way, the ability to move fast. It's what you see with Facebook. It's what you see with Uber. It's what you see with Spotify. Living totally in a new digital world and being able to take all the advantages of the digital world. So those are the three performance zones. I'm going to go into more detail, and we can get some questions at the end. Hopefully it gave you kind of a clear picture of how those would apply to yourselves in your organization. So let me just go to a quick customer story here. Talks mostly on the unleashed digital side. We have to go now to switch over here. We got a little technical problem over there. Thank you.
In the scenario where the flight cancellation or some other off-schedule operation, we've had a system where we find new seats and flights availability for those customers, but I think oftentimes customers didn't necessarily know that was the best option for them. What we wanted to do was create a system where they could actually see alternate options.
The goal was to facilitate a better experience for our customers on how to get to their destination in an automated fashion on the channel of their choice.
So we partnered with IBM, and specifically Ibm Cloud Platform, to adopt their garage method, pair programming, test-driven development.
The original timeline was actually over a year. So American approached IBM and asked us if there was any way we could help them shorten that timeline.
From the time that we started development on dynamic rebooking until the time that we actually had customers using it was about 4.5 months.
We were kind of cautious to release this product. We rolled it out to a limited number of stations across all the channels, and it really went flawlessly.
We are now crossing into a zone of turbulence. Please keep your seatbelts fastened.
In our business, hurricanes, storms, other natural events impact our customers on a fairly regular basis. What happened, and this is a true story, the hurricanes hit, and everybody said, this is ridiculous. Our customers were being impacted by the hurricanes immediately. Why are we mitigating risk of a traditional rollout when we have the power of the cloud? And this is exactly the scenario that our customers need this capability.
We made the decision as a team that the tool needed to be turned on, and especially in the hardest hit areas. So we did.
Having the confidence to just flip the switch really came out of the whole project from the beginning. This was a unique opportunity for us really to embed the business side right in with the technology team.
Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.
One of our expectations when we were moving to the IBM Cloud was the scale and the hyperscale of cloud should relieve our normal concerns around infrastructure when we roll out an application globally. So when the hurricanes hit, we put that to a test, and our confidence was there, and the application worked flawlessly.
I think people now realize that these kind of activities and integration are much easier when we can use cloud technology, and especially microservices. We can break problems into much smaller problems, and those get much easier to wrap your head around and develop.
This is the technology that we need to be adopting now in order to keep pace with our customer expectations.
Okay, flip me back. Okay, a little bit long on that, but I thought it was a good video. I think it's a good customer story. Put aside just kind of the commercialization of that for just a second, please. What was really important here is the way in which we did the work. I was fortunate enough to be part of that team. So the way in which we did the work was significantly different than the way in which we developed technology in the past. So we followed a garage method of a very disciplined set of tenants around doing, I'm going to throw some technical things out here. You may know them, doing TDD type programming. We also did some pair programming in order to accelerate higher quality things. A full Devops CI/CD chain in order to be able to get things deployed in a timely manner. In order to also, as they mentioned, this is Irma. If you don't remember that, this is Irma. They were so confident in themselves, right? In a project team, they were so confident. They realized even if they had issues with the rollout, because they did a soft rollout and then they went immediately to hard when Irma hit, they were so confident in the CI/CD pipeline that they knew they could make adjustments quickly. And these were squad-based teams that were doing both the development work and the maintenance work. So they were the backlog was both of those, and product owners and the methods that were used would make decisions on whether continue some new features to add to it or deal with a crit 3 or whatever severity level that we're talking about. So it's a brand new way in which they did work. I will note the cultural change of this should not be underestimated. It is a significant change for everybody that's involved in this. And I think, I know American, still deals with this on an ongoing basis. And I can share some stories on how that is. But the reality of it is, we were able to develop a set of technologies and features and put them into the marketplace that made a significant advantage in months. And again, this is the first project we launched off of this, so newer projects are moving at a faster pace. Did it in months that if we did it the traditional way, we'd be looking at much, much longer. I won't share the data with you on it, only because I won't do that for American, but it was a significant life cycle. Another good story on here is Hertz. I don't have a slide, but Hertz was the example I used around the billing engine. Hertz in all of its suite of clouds, they have a very strong billing engine. And to actually change that into microservices and all of the newer technologies is going to take time, and it would put their business at risk as they went through rather large big bang type approaches to turn it on. They're digitizing the edges of that, right? And then, over time, I'm sure they will take and they will start to use what they refer to as a strangle pattern, where they're actually going to take, pieces of core and they'll move it to a microservice set of foundation and be able to live in a coexistence model, which is a much easier way for the business to digest that. Gives them both a set of speed and also minimizes some risk. So that's just another one. And then, there's other ones in here we can talk about at a later time if we have a few minutes. So I'm going to dive into each of those performance zones. Optimize the core, unlocking the legacy, and then unleashing digital. And before I get in there, I just want to remind us of what I said in the beginning, how I believe this fits into your IT strategy and not just the execution of performance zones. Most of what we do in IT is going to be reflected in here in the service that we provided, because this also talks about the infrastructure and the network. You move into a software as a service model, you're moving into cloud-based stuff, you're moving into IaaS frameworks. A lot of those platforms and infrastructure and networks, they come with them. So this isn't just application management and development as it was in the past. The scope of this is larger. So I talked a little bit about optimizing the core. Here, just to kind of give you, an idea of what that is. Again, monolithic architecture. They generally are systems that don't change a lot. What we want to do here is really look at these things. Our point of view is really look at them across what I talked about before: people, process, technologies, and then other considerations. And each of these, and when you talk about the core, each of these have a specific way of dealing with speed, efficiency, and resiliency. Again, those pillars, bringing them all together through these performance zones and the models that we have. The idea behind this, from a people perspective, you want to get yourself into a factory mode, right, where you're still using a lot of the offshore arbitrage capabilities. The way in which you go about work is going to be very much focused on maximizing your maintenance work, because again, not a lot of development. You don't want to think about this as having very little DevOps. You absolutely can put DevOps around there. You should do that. There is DevOps for mainframes. There's DevOps for these tool sets that we have as platforms, and we know that they have a lot of value. So you still want to consider, even though you're optimizing core, some of the newer capabilities that are out there. This model, to really maximize it, you have to think about automation. This is where you're going to drive a lot of value to your business. This is where you're going to free up capital to reinvest in the unleash side of the program. Right? This is where we focus on being able to do that. So even though we're optimizing the core, it's somewhat of an older technology, doesn't change. Robotics, cognitive, AI, all of those are going to be factors in order for you to reinvest on your digital side. Right? Make sense? The next one I want to talk about is kind of the unlock. This one, as I mentioned, generally you're putting wrap around it, and you're really moving forward with a lot of the digital edges, if you will, and you're prioritizing the edges, and you have to use a lot of the techniques I just talked about with American Airlines on the digital side, where you're doing product-based teams, Devops, and all that. But you also want to use some of the same principles we talked about on the optimize the core piece here, so that infrastructure that's in the middle, the things you've wrapped around, you still want to consider, right, how can you put a DevOps engine around that? How can you drive automation through that? You can still take that wrapper and you can still containerize it, depending on the complexity of each of these apps. You can still containerize it, still put that in a cloud-based architecture, right, and get the advantages. I'm trying to think of a good place. Well, one of our clients did do that. We were able to put a wrapper around it, and we moved all of that to a cloud-based, which freed up their data center that they were leasing. So there was a critical business priority for that. So it freed up their data center. What that allowed us to do is, again, not put the business at risk by trying to make a significant amount of change all at once. What we did is move them over to a cloud-based architecture, free up millions of dollars within the data center, and again, reinvest almost a zero-sum gain, net-sum gain on that to unlocking the legacy and the digital edges. From a people, process, technology, and other considerations here, I'm going to spend just a few seconds on squads as IT leaders. This transformation of going from your traditional way of doing services to a squad-based. Just a show of hands, how many people are doing squad-based delivery? Very small. Interesting. Okay. When we talk about cultural change, I'm sure you guys could tell some great stories on how to do this. This is really real. We see significant value in doing that. When you get to the unlock the core piece, we look at squads that are going to be larger in nature. They're still going to be functional, meaning that you're going to have a Java programmer, you're going to have an Angular programmer, you're going to have a specific BA. You're not blending testing and design and development together with a single full stack type of philosophy. You're going to be very functionally driven, and you're going to drive that set of people on the core side very much on the labor arbitrage and get them offshore at scale. But when you start to get into the digital piece, the ability to co-locate, the ability to actually work closely with product owners that are in your business on the same time zone, that becomes very significant for you to be able to operate at speed. You're going to be building, DevOps tool chains, which again, a squad-based model. If you aren't there, I highly recommend, if we have an opportunity to talk, one-on-one, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. But getting to a product-based, and by product-based squad means that you're giving a squad a user story that is more vertically aligned to the services they're providing. So, for example, create order versus something that's horizontal, which is this program for this batch operation inside here. So these product-based squads were critical for what we did at American Airlines, really allowed us to accelerate. It built quality into your program. Here's where you're starting to see us start to do a DevSecOps type approach here. So the concept is these teams are designing and building for security, designing and building for resiliency. So it starts way at the beginning, way to the left for security and resiliency. So when you get into the operational aspect of it, these site reliability engineers, which you may hear about, have a critical role in ensuring whatever is being deployed. Again, it's deploying every 12 seconds if you want to get really exaggerated, but let's say you're deploying every week. The ability to ensure that you're deploying at a level of resiliency requires you to think about this stuff up front. So this gets into process, it gets into technology, it gets into how you design your squads. And if you're going to be effective in your ADM principles around a set of applications that are in this unlocked state, you need to be really driving to those level of excellence, both at what you wrapped and also all the digital edges. Okay. All right. Let's take a second to talk about Unleash. Again, you heard it from the client's mouth with American. I hope you guys got the gist of what happened there. Again, the speed in which they operated and their confidence in the technology it deployed are, I think, are the underpinnings. But when you get into the Unleash model here, here's what we call born on cloud applications, right? You're starting with the new technology from the very beginning. They're very, very focused on speed. They're very focused on resiliency. Efficiency is a focus of theirs, but organizations are willing to invest heavily in highly skilled individuals to obtain speed. Right? This is where you get into a full stack type of model. When we look at the people, processes, and technology across here, you're using some of the underpinnings I talked about on the Unleash side for the digital edges, but here, very much an MVP-based model in how you deliver. So again, if this concept is new to you on the MVPs, part of the kind of the Agile doctrine, and I've seen it applied to a lot of clients, and I've seen it applied incorrectly to a good bit of them as well. When we talk about MVP, particularly on the Unleash side, and I'll use the American as an example, you're really looking at what is a viable product that's going to add value to whatever your outcome is, right? So there were things that they didn't deploy on day one that in a traditional model we would have waited and deployed them all. So for example, and this is just an example that this isn't the reality, but let's say, we're doing this and you couldn't do it for, let's say the military, which has a very unique process, getting on planes, is the military or even government workers. Let's say you couldn't do that day one. You would opt to put that in your backlog and get to the core so that 85% of the individuals that were using this could receive value in a very timely manner. These cultural changes that you have in your development cycle have to be thought through as an organization. So that just gives you kind of an example of how you think of the MVP-based model. I talked about combining application development and maintenance. Again, in these types of roles, your developers that you have today are still doing the maintenance, and that's going to go for a period of time because, again, the development's going to take a period of time. You didn't you didn't launch everything all at once, right? You launched only the MVP, and you're continuing to iterate to improve your MVP over time. You've got to have your business on board, and you've got to have IT leadership on board to be able to do that, and very effective when you're able to get that all together. The other thing I think here for the Unleash side is on the process, discipline is critical. So we've developed a garage method. There are other methods out there, but we've developed a garage method that our people are trained on. They know how to use it. They know the pitfalls of it. So they do TDD, paired-based, extreme program, lean-based is the technique that we use. There's other ones that are effective as well. We believe this is one that allows us as an organization to be most effective. That's the tenets and principles we bring when we do this. The DevOps piece of this, I mentioned it before, critical. If you don't think about it from the beginning to the end, and you don't have consistency in your DevOps, you will not operate at speed, and often, in my opinion, you will fail. You will not meet expectations. So this gives you a little bit about it. There's a couple things on the technology, very modern programming. The squads here are full stack, meaning that they can work both on the UI layer and also on the back end layer. They know what that means. They understand architecture. They understand how the DevOps tooling. So you really have highly skilled individuals inside these squads. That's why it's not for everybody. It's not for every one of the performance zones because they're expensive to maintain. They move at speed. They're high quality, but that's why we took a special focus around optimizing the core, recognizing that you can't build squads like this for everything that you do. It's just not cost prohibitive. So it's cost prohibitive. Okay. Oops. So those are performance zones. Again, really would appreciate you guys. Let me know what your feedback is on this one. When I talk to people individually, it seems to resonate. I'd like to kind of get your sense of that as you think about your IT shop and how you want to build your models to support your new operating models, and whether this has got a strong place or or it doesn't. I'm interested to hear from you. So I think this is an important concept also. As I said, every one of you probably in this room will have all 3 performance zones. You'll have a core, you'll have an unlock strategy, and you'll have a release strategy. And we see over time that you guys will start to do more born on cloud development. How fast of a pace you guys move will depend on you as an organization and what you need. Depends on how people are disrupting you or you are disrupting. All these factors come into play. But what's important is that shift is going to take time to get to. It's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen probably in the next 3-4 years, my opinion. I think a lot of you will still be optimizing core technology until that core has its life cycle end. Or there's a SaaS model that starts to take those core items away from you, and you can run them in a totally different manner. So how do you make this real for you? We've developed an assessment model. We do highly recommend, as you guys think about your transformation, you think about your applications, we do recommend that you step back and you look at your applications against a set of core characteristics, and you make a decision as to where you think each of these are going to go. Are you going to stay with it and just optimize the heck out of it? Are you going to do the unleash, the wraparound strategy to unlock legacy? And if you are, how long do you think that journey is going to take? You do this application by application, or are you just going to rewrite a set of applications? Or new applications come to you. So we have an assessment model that we go to. We recommend whatever you're doing and whatever your assessment criteria is. It's important that you build your roadmap so that you know what your journey is before you get started. You can communicate your journey. You can tie that back into your IT strategy and your business discussions. All right, so I'm getting maybe a little closer on time here, but a couple things. I took and I kind of flipped the performance zones on edge, and now I'm looking across what it means from a people perspective. And what are the types of squads and differences that you want to focus on as you're doing that? So I articulated some of this already. Again, the optimize, it's all about your global delivery models. You're often there doing functional type look. When you get into the unlock, you get a quite complicated environment because you have some of it you're still supporting in the wrapper piece, but yet you've got digital pieces around the edge, and how you keep that all together from a people, process, and technology perspective. And then I think I covered most of the components here on the time to value as it does on the release. But this gives you kind of a view on the different characteristics of the people side of this formula based on each of the zones. The next slice, and again, I talked about this from an automation. It is automation everywhere. The level of automation you want to maximize. I don't care what zone you're in, you want to maximize your automation, but it's a little different, right? So on the core side, you're looking at bots. You're looking at maybe replacing with kind of the digital side, a digital employee, whatever robotics you can do. There you want to maximize. On the right side, on Unleash, your automation is really focused around your DevOps tool chain and being able to work at speed and all the automation associated with those characteristics. But this is just one area that I just wanted to highlight because I do believe this is probably going to be where the IT organizations of the future, and maybe that future is a week away, are going to provide significant value to their business, is your ability to drive automation, your ability to manage automation. Again, go back to my example, the driverless vehicles, all that function is an IT function. It's not an HR function any longer. And you as IT leaders have got to create an ecosystem that allows you to create that, onboard that, and then manage its life cycle. These are things that we're thinking about now that we didn't think about a year ago or 2 years ago, on what that means into the business. Because again, no longer are you providing a service to your retail business. You become the retail business, and that's a significant shift that we had around the next gen. These are just some stats. I left them in here, again, because it makes it real. We are seeing in areas where we're automating 30 to 70% automation value. All right? Think about taking 30% to 70% of your workforce out, or change them. And what I like to do is have them focus on more strategic value, more value-add activities. These are real examples. These clients talk to them about them. Talk exactly about, like American did, on how they realized these things through automation. The last piece I want to talk about, and then you can see I'm cutting off. I will open it up for questions, and I know I have an opportunity to speak with some of you afterwards as well. We can get those, but this is I want to kind of ground on just one final concept here. The service management and the service integration layer, I hope you got an appreciation as you go across these zones, becomes a critical fabric for you as IT leaders to deliver these services. Sometimes called platforms, right? So for IBM, we have a platform. We have a automation platform, pre-integrated set of activities, technologies, processes, and even people type of functions within that platform that we use for our clients when we're introducing new bots, the whole life cycle. That may fit you, it may not fit you, but my suggestion as you guys go through this, you use these platforms and you build out these platforms, whether you're using them from some third party or you got them yourself, that are foundational to how you're delivering the service. Because your ability to ingest the new technology that's coming to you at speed will require you to have a good bit of this foundation already in place. Right? Whether that's a cognitive platform, for us a service delivery platform based upon the garage methods, whether it be our Devops platform that worked with .NET or Java-based or mainframe-based. These are things that we know we had to pre-build that have what we believe is a strategic advantage when we're trying to serve you as an organization. And I share that with you because I do think they will accelerate what you're trying to accomplish as well. Again, whether you're using us or somebody else or you're doing it yourself, having this foundational layer that works across the zones, and in some cases they work differently within the zone, I believe is critical for you guys as IT leaders. So with that, let me see. Well, that's pretty amazing. It's not a bad picture. With that, I just want to iterate first. Thank you very much for allowing me to come up here and kind of share my ideas with you guys. I would appreciate if you come back and share some ideas with me. That's one of the reasons why I was excited about coming out and talking to you guys, is because I really do appreciate the feedback. You're the reason why I do this. So knowing what you think about it is important to me. So please do that. I don't know if we have time for questions or whatnot, team. Yes? Okay. So anybody want to be brave enough to ask a question? Okay. Can you? I'm sorry. Did you say liability? Oh, the SREs. Well, this is a new concept. I don't know how new it is. It's a concept out there. It really is. It's an individual. Let's just kind of put it. It's an individual that's on your team. They actually work across squads. When I say this, I want to be really careful. People use these things differently, but I'm going to give you a concept that I believe works. But an SRE works across squads, right? So let's say there's 5 or 6 development squads that are out there. Their responsibility is to ensure that the developers and the designers are building into their core code a set of security principles and framework that they have blessed, a set of reliability things, so whatever logging and things of that nature that'll allow the operational side of the run side of that application to be extremely effective. That's their role in doing that. Used to be, architects used to do a lot of that, but they really, whether they actually were responsible for the run side, didn't see it. The other important aspect of an SRE, the way we use them, is they are the ones that say it goes live. So when you go through your CI/CD and you run through all of the various automation that you may have in there, they decide that that application is ready to go live, they're on the hook to ensure that it has the resiliency and uptime that SLAs. Well, so they put those, so those are a set of frameworks that you build in the beginning, right? So your service delivery, whatever, you have a set of principles that you agree are part of your architectural standards, circuit breakers, things of that nature, logging, all of those things. They need to ensure that those things are being followed, right? Okay.
I really like your comparison to HR, this transition to IT, and a lot of functionality in the last couple of decades of HR. I think some places where HR fell is keeping up with the reporting metrics and those pushing this process forward. And I just want to know, from your point of view, how important do you see the analytics and reporting aspect as we do this automation integration process? To speak of doing that, how important is visibility and reporting going to be to move at that same rate as the process?
Yeah, well, I think it's critical, right? Again, that's the only information you're going to have on the health and well-being of your digital assets, right? So your ability to mine that data and to improve on that data, that'll be critical. Also, when you get into machine learning and AI and cognitive and actually making changes, and us being smarter because of it, that's the winners will win in that area, right?
So IBM's engagement, the case study on ABM, so you have the 3 quadrants or rather 3
Zones, performance zones? Yeah.
Do you guys execute all 3 areas, or do you optimize for?
No, so that one, they actually, that particular project, we do application management services for them across other things where we are involved in that. That particular program, we were brought on board actually to transform a different application. In the process, our job was to build the people, work with them to build the people, follow the method, which we had done some POVs specifically on the garage method, which they loved. Took a while for that love to be developed. Let me tell you, it took a while, but they saw real results. Now they've adopted it. Put the technology layer aside for now. It was important and critical to be able to do it, but those were the important things. And as we started the journey on the other application, there were some really strategic initiatives that came down from the C-suite, CEO, so said, we're going to do this. And when traditional teams planned out how long it was going to take to do it, we missed the market. And so they gave that American team, all right, not IBM, that American team, which IBM was supporting, they gave them the mandate and the option to go and try to do it. We did some design thinking around it. We got a really strong product owner who made decisions for us daily, and we were able to drive that in months to where we are. But that was definitely unleashed, very, very development focused. We are doing the maintenance on that in the method I spoke to, where we're putting it right in the backlog and it's draining right down through there. But that was a single focus on development. Balu, say hi. He's another IBMer. Just want to point him out so you didn't think he was sneaking around. He's going to join me in any of the one-on-ones. But you have myself, Lou, if you see him as well, he can share all his stories related to this. No questions about gambling? Good. I'm not very good at it. All right. Is that it? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.